Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. My name is Helen Budd. I'm the Program Manager of the Student Veterans Resource Center at the University of Michigan Flint, where I proudly serve our veterans and military-connected students with VA education benefits, military tuition assistance, and benefits specifically designed for family members of our military service members and veterans. I'm joined today by my colleague Michelle Smith. She's my lieutenant at the office, and I can't do this without her. So thank you, Michelle, for your support here today. It means a lot. So again, thank you for joining us for this special panel discussion about military and police working dogs, service dogs that are specially trained to assist individuals with visible and invisible disabilities according to the individual's specific needs, and therapy dogs, which are trained and certified to bring comfort to everyone they meet. As we discuss each of these factors, please feel free to enter your questions into the chat, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. This session is being recorded, as you know, so that you can always catch up later if you have another commitment. But we really hope that you do stay with us. I designed today's presentation specifically to implement a kind of circle of life concept. After a brief introduction about the use of canines in the military, we will discuss the selection, characteristics, training, and advanced development of canines used in law enforcement. Following that, we'll hear from a service dog organization, from Christine, right here in our backyard in Pinckney, about the process for selecting and training service dogs. We'll hear from a combat veteran who sustained multiple physical and psychiatric injuries during his 18 years of service with the U.S. Marine Corps and uses a service dog to help him cope with the basic necessities of everyday life. We'll then discuss therapy dogs and how they're different from service dogs. Finally, we'll discuss the Michigan War Dog Memorial, which holds a very special place in my heart, and the honor that it gives to military, law enforcement, service, and therapy dogs when they reach the end of their life. I will start with an introduction of our panelists. If you could please wave or give a thumbs up when I introduce you, so everyone knows who you are. First up is Philip Whitelaw. Philip is a U.S. Army veteran and the president and founder of the Michigan War Dog Memorial in Lyon Township. He runs the memorials for all military, law enforcement, service, and therapy dogs at the War Dog Memorial, and is always looking for ways to bring comfort and closure to the humans who have had to say goodbye to their four-legged partners. Having attended several of these ceremonies, I can testify personally that Philip does an outstanding job every time. Next to Philip is Deputy Michael Richardson of the Oakland County Sheriff's Office Canine Unit and Canine Eco. Michael is a master trainer with the National Association of Professional Canine Handlers. I had the honor of personally knowing Michael's former partner. Deputy Richardson's current partner in the back seat there is Eco. He was named for both Deputy Eric Overall of the Oakland County Sheriff's Office and Wayne State University Canine Officer Colin Rose, both of whom tragically lost their lives in the line of duty. Canine Eco was named to honor them both. Next, we have Christine Myron, Executive Director of Blue Star Service Dogs. I will let her explain Blue Star's unique and special mission of rescuing one to heal another in more detail. The work they do is fantastic. We have, do we have veteran Laszlo Saleh on the line yet? Are you with us, Laszlo? Okay, I'm not sure if he's with us, but it's a little patchy. He's in Colorado to pick up his new service dog. Unfortunately, we just lost Emperor, who is formerly a military working dog with Navy SEAL Team 3. However, God was looking out for Laszlo because Raven is his new service dog and apparently Emperor's niece and a jet black German Shepherd. So we look forward to meeting Raven when he brings her back to Michigan. Following Laszlo will be Mariana Ziegler-Hickey. Mariana has 3 golden retrievers, one of whom is about 1 year old and in training to become a certified therapy dog through the Mid-Michigan Therapy Dog Organization. The Mid-Michigan Therapy Dog Handler teams visit the UM Flint campus every semester during finals week to help reduce exam stress and general end-of-term anxiety. That includes staff as well as students, by the way. They tag team between the Student Veterans Resource Center and the campus library. Needless to say, the Veterans Center is always Mariana's first stop, and they will always receive with gratitude. Missy Walker has 5 Labradors, 3 of which are certified therapy dogs through the Alliance of Therapy Dogs. Like Mariana and her husband, Doug, Missy and her labs visit schools, nursing homes, hospitals, and rehab centers. She and her black lab, Dolly, who loves to give me kisses, are members of the Michigan War Dog Memorial Salute Team, Canine Salute Team, and they provide full procession memorials for all military, law enforcement, service, and therapy canines. So thank you, each of you, for taking time to talk to us today about your organization and your mission to bring support and comfort to others. So Phil, would you please start with a brief history of the use of dogs in the military and how they are used today in the global war on terror?
Sure. Bull mastiffs. That's what they prefer to use to guard the camps. But let's just go back 100 years. It was in World War I that dogs were used mainly to save lives. What would happen is when there was after a frontal attack, the dogs were trained to go out in no man's land, find a wounded soldier, and then bring back an article of his clothing or anything they could carry, and then lead the stretcher bearers back to that wounded soldier. And that way he would get care. And basically they saved just thousands and thousands of lives during World War I. So back then, the United States did not have a dog program, but the French did. And they were the French dogs that you used. And then as you go into the next, Army was given an order to secure dogs for defense. And that started the dog program in the United States. Matter of fact, the question was, where are you going to get all these dogs and where are you going to get all these handlers? They put a call out to the nation, and over 20,000 dogs were donated to the cause, which was great. However, all the Chihuahuas had to be sent back. They just didn't make the cut. So, but the Army preferred the German Shepherd, the Marine Corps preferred the Doberman Pinscher, and they started their training. In the spring of 1943, the first dog.
Hey, Phil, we keep losing you. Would you maybe stop your video and just speak at this point? See if that helps with the bandwidth.
Do what?
Can you stop your video and just speak because we keep losing you?
Stop the video?
Yep. It's gonna be down there in the left.
Stop your video, yeah.
Down in the left-hand corner, there's a little video symbol. Just click that. Yep, there we go.
That's it. We can still hear you.
Oh, okay.
I hope.
So anyways, after they were deployed to Guam, 2 weeks after their arrival, casualty rating dropped by 70% because of these dogs. And that's a huge number. In the 550 missions led by a war dog, not one was ambushed by the Japanese, because you couldn't fool a dog. You just couldn't fool them. So they saved a lot of lives. According to military records, they saved 15,000 lives during World War II. Then you went into the next war, Korea. According to military records, they saved 3,000 lives during that short conflict. Then you go into Vietnam. Vietnam was an entirely different war. Over 4,234 dogs were deployed to Vietnam. According to military records, they saved 10,000 lives. So now you're already up to 28,000 men and women that would not have come home if it wasn't for a well-trained dog. That's why they're so valuable. So they went on to fight in Bosnia, Iraq, Afghanistan, War on Terror. Today, there's over 2,800 teams scattered throughout the world of them doing their job. And their main job is to save lives. And they do that extremely well. So that's kind of the real short version of the history of war dogs in combat. So that's
Thank
about all I have on that, unless you want to hear a little bit more.
There is, in the resource section at the end of the presentation, we have a list of resources, including your website, where our visitors can go to find more information about the memorial, view the gallery, and get more fascinating information that you have out there. Because I could listen to you all day, honestly. Next up, we have Deputy Michael Richardson. Mike, are you up?
Did you ask me a question?
I'm sorry? I don't, yes, Phil?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I did. I was moving on to Mike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Deputy Richardson, are you with us?
I believe
How does
so.
he go? Hi, go.
Eco's about 3 years old now, 3.5.
Oh, gosh. So can you start with telling us, were you a military canine handler in the Marine Corps? And if not, how did you start your career as a professional canine handler and trainer?
I was not a handler when I was in the Marine Corps. Kind of started out my career training pets, starting off with some of my labs for hunting, and I wanted to do more with them. So I started training them a little bit more for hunt tests. So I trained a lot of hunt tests, trained other people's dogs for hunt tests, and got a lot of experience that way. And then when an opportunity happened within our organization, I took advantage of that and got my first dog boss.
So as a professional handler, would you talk to us about the selection, training, cross-training, and continued development of canines in law enforcement?
Long process is what it is, but basically when selecting a dog, what I break it down to is either they have it or they don't. So when I evaluate dogs, go to look at them, almost right away I can usually tell on whether they have it, and from there then I go on and look for different things. Young dogs, we're looking at environmentals to make sure that they're not timid or reacting to floors or stairs, loud noises, things like that. How they function within groups of people. So try to get other trainers around there or other people within the area to try to get around their dog to see how they respond to that. And to see how they respond to being handled by other people. That's the thing. And then from there, we'll start testing them for what we call hunt drive or retrieving drive. Whether the dog will go out and chase and find things is basically what we're looking for. The more they'll chase things, mainly their toy, the easier it is for us to train. Then we're looking probably for sociability. So how social they are with other people, other dogs. A big thing is that we don't like dog aggression within them because it's just so hard to train out of a dog. So that's one of the things that I'm looking for basically when we're starting out. Just some of the basic things like this.
So police canines are often referred to as fur missiles, trained to apprehend suspects during foot searches. And obviously they can be cross-trained, as we just discussed, to search for missing individuals, including children. So how does a dog that apprehends criminals somehow flip the switch to gently search for a child or a person with Alzheimer's who has wandered off, or similar situations? How do they make that transition?
Well, if you have a good dog, they don't switch all that well. So that's one of the big things with that is having the other end of the leash, which is us. So hopefully if they're trained properly, we are the ones that are in charge of that and looking out. So if we are looking for lost people or people with Alzheimer's, we're being aware of the dog and not letting them go into areas where something something bad may happen, because we do teach them to bite. And part of that is I think that that's important to help the dogs, since they're dogs as a breed aren't, they're more timid with humans. That's not their prey item, right? Prey item, more rabbits and that. So when you start teaching a dog to go after humans, it's not natural for them. So you take some of that away and you have them a little bit timid, and they don't search as well as dogs that aren't timid. So that's one of the things that I'm doing. Mainly with that, the big thing is keeping us in as half the team. So we're the ones making those decisions, and don't leave that up to the dogs.
How much training goes in on a continuous basis? Because I know that you're very fortunate in your department that you have a lot of resources available that allow you to do continued training. What kind of costs can an average police department expect to incur for the purchase, training, and care of a canine? I know those will kind of run on questions.
Right, a couple different aspects from that. The big thing, starting out with the training, is the cost to cover us being away from our work area. So that's a big cost involved there. But the continued maintenance training is something that really needs to be looked at, and the department needs to commit to that. A well-trained dog is one that will, find what you're looking for, whether it's humans or whether it's in detector work, being drugs or bombs or that. So continued training is a must. And within the courts, it's also a must, because that's what allows us to do our job and to be reliable is our continued training and how that goes with the dog. For the cost, that's usually a big hit for a department to start out with a canine, at least if they're doing it right. Some places don't start out right and start with a lot of donated dogs and things like that just don't have, what I was talking about in the first place, don't have it right. So some of that can reflect on how they end up working. And a lot of dog teams in the long run fail or only have, one dog go through, because they're not out producing, they're not out finding things that they need to find with that. So starting out, it can be anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 to start out a good canine program, between the dog, the training of the handler, the training of the dog, the vet care costs, the canine vehicle, the upgrade of the vehicle, the cage in the back. There's a lot of cost in the initially. After that, depending on where and how well you do, some of that can be recouped with what you find, whether it's drugs and seizure of that. Finding one lost person, one person with Alzheimer's that would have passed away, I think is invaluable compared to what the actual cost of the dog is.
Okay. We do have a question from Tara. I know we're going to be handling questions toward the end, but this one's pertinent for right now. For dogs that reach retirement age, do you always keep them, or what goes into finding a home for a dog with this type of training to make them more of a pet than a worker?
Most of the time that we keep them, it's hard to give up a dog after a lifetime of having the dog and putting in all the training, and also you end up seeing the dog more than your family. So I'm with Eco, a lot more than I am with my family, and So it's hard to give them up, but there are circumstances where that happens. It can be a burden upon retirement, because almost in every circumstance, when a dog retires, the canine handler takes on that burden. So it can get costly, with your partner and knowing what he put out for you throughout his career, and then after they retire, medical expenses start piling up, because these aren't the regular pet dogs that sit at home and get fed all the time. They've actually gone out and done a lot of things that wear and tear on their body. So that can all catch up to them, especially, training things like explosives or accelerants and that, some of that are all caustic chemicals. So that can wear on and get into cancer with them. So, that gets to be a costly portion of it. But, most of the time we keep them. If not, we try to look for a suitable home. Whether it's another handler or somebody that can handle this type of animal. There are organizations out there that will help us place dogs that are a little bit more what we call sharp or a little bit of an attitude that, not everybody can handle. A lot of time it's amazing how these dogs adapt, especially to retirement. But with that too, they still have the stress of working, and they don't like sitting down very often.
Would you recommend anyone without experience handling dogs like this to adopt or to consider adopting? And anyone who's considering adopting out, would that, what sort of recommendations? That's sort of off script a little bit, but it's a question that I had in mind, because I know the Air Force is constantly putting out calls for adoption of military working dogs. And considering the nature of the job, I would think that would require some special handling experience.
It very well can. It depends. What it boils down to is it all depends on the dog and the type of dog and what they've been trained in. A lot of dogs nowadays are trained in just detector work. So, a lot of what we're looking for is the floppy ear dogs that search like crazy and never quit. So they're the only thing you're looking for is somebody that can get a dog out quite a bit and give them a walk and exercise them. And then, all the way up to, dogs that perform SWAT or special response teams, where they're going in and doing a lot of heavy duty things of aggression type things, so there's two different types of dogs just right there in that instance that, two different kinds of people need to have those dogs. So it boils down to, it just depends on the dog.
Do you have a preference for a specific breed? And can you tell us what breed Eco is?
Eco is a Dutch herder, so he's a Dutch Shepherd. Right now, that's the type of dog that I prefer, just because of their attitude, their health issues or non-issues that they have. A little bit less than German Shepherds right now. But I like the pointy ears just because of their hunting ability and their trainability. They seem to be a little bit easier to train. But my love is probably for labs. That's what I started out with hunting wise, and they still do the job that of an officer, doing detector work too. So I do still love my floppy ear dogs.
And does it matter if a dog is male or female for the type of work that you do?
No, it doesn't. We see a lot of males. Some of it is just the male eagle. The big portion of it though is we get a lot of our dogs imported. So when we get our dogs imported, the Europeans keep their good breeders. So they'll keep their females there and not give them up very often. So that's a big thing with us is that we don't get those breeding dogs over here from Europe. So that's a main reason why you see a lot of male dogs kind of dominate police work is that.
Well, we're going to hold the rest of the questions until the Q&A session at the end, so that we can move on to Christine Myron of Blue Star Service Dogs. And she will discuss what it takes to fully train a service dog and the difference between service dogs, therapy dogs, and companion dogs, and which of these are protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Christine, would you like to take it away?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Helen. Thanks for letting me be here. Um, Blue Star Service Dogs, I guess I'll start. We've been around about 9.5 years. We had a name change about 1.5 years ago. And we have been training service dogs for probably about 8 of those years. And what we do that's a little bit different is that we rescue shelter dogs. And then we put them in one of 2 of our prison programs. So we have inmate handlers at 2 different prisons that will train with the dogs in some basic obedience and some pre-task training prior to our selection of veteran applicants and being able to pair the right service dog with the veteran's needs. And then once we pair the dogs, we train with the veteran and the dog for about 1 year. So over a year long with weekly in-person training sessions and then daily homework, we learn to master all the Canine Good Citizen from their basic criteria to their advanced criteria and their urban. And then we teach at least 3 tasks that are related to that veteran's disabilities to make sure that that dog could either compensate or mitigate maybe an anxiety attack or something like that related to either the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder or traumatic brain injury. So those are the things that we specialize in. And that's kind of us in a nutshell, I guess. We're located in Pinckney, and we do a lot of training throughout the state of Michigan. And we serve all of Michigan and veterans that can make the trip to Pinckney to come to the training center regularly and train their dog. So, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Can you clarify the differences between service dogs, therapy dogs, and companion dogs? Because there's a lot of confusion and misconception.
You're absolutely right. And each one of them has an amazing job. There's no, there's no job that's not for the right purpose. So, companion dog is basically a pet. So, I just saw my dog. He's on the screen right now. So a companion dog is a pet. They can go anywhere in public, like a sidewalk or a dog park. And sometimes they'll be able to go to different companies, like Home Depot is very dog friendly, and different places in maybe somebody's community where dogs are allowed. And then there is the advanced training of a therapy dog. And I believe we have a therapy dog trainer here. She could probably answer those questions a lot better. But a therapy dog is a wonderful animal that really can help bring, relief or joy or happiness or some kind of decrease in anxiety to a group of people that really they're not honed in on one person, but they can help many different individuals dealing with a certain situation. And then service dogs are related to one individual. So a service dog is a prescribed tool, if you will. They are considered adaptive equipment by their medical team and throughout the medical field as basically the same thing as a wheelchair or a prosthetic limb or something like that, where you're a continuation of the human being. So that's why service dogs, and when you hear about service dogs can go anywhere that their handler can go, the reason is that they function as a part of that human. So those are kind of the differences. And then the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is the entity that helps Americans with disabilities be able to have equal access and rights and not be segregated or have different kind of treatment or service because of their disability. So they oversee that. And they're the ones that have supported service dogs as having full access to public places. And I like to, you know, make the comparison between the wheelchair. When I get calls from maybe a hotel will call me and say, well, I got somebody and I don't know if it's a service dog. And I say, well, consider this. If you had somebody roll in a wheelchair and you didn't know if they really needed it, you would still provide them services. So it's really kind of the same thing as somebody has a pacemaker, a wheelchair, crutches, things like that. So, and that's why they're supported by the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Many nonprofits are popping up and claiming to provide a similar service for veterans. What should a veteran watch out for to ensure that he or she receives a quality animal? And how long should they expect that process to last?
Yeah, well, there are different kinds of service dog organizations. There's some amazing service dogs organizations throughout the country that breed their own service dogs and have amazing dogs that they train with trainers prior to pairing them. And I think that's one of the indicators is that the dogs are trained prior, not just fostered. Sometimes people will just pull them out of a breeder or pull them out of a shelter and say, okay, we're going to start training with this dog. I think that this is my personal opinion, so you can weight it for what you want, but that, you know, some training should be done ahead of time to really make sure that that dog's skills are conducive with serving an individual's needs and not a different kind of job.
My next question is, why does Blue Star Service Dogs place new canine candidates in the prison system? Mm-hmm. And how do you ensure that a dog is placed with an inmate who will take care of it properly?
I get that question a lot, and I love getting that question because using the prison system originally, our organization thought about it is not only is it a wonderful thing for the inmates to be able to earn the privilege to work with dogs, it also saves the cost of a service dog a great deal because the inmates are being paid by the prison for that job. And so the cost of all of that basic obedience and pre-task training is not the cost of our organization, and then turning over to our funders and our sponsors that give us donations because all of our costs are free to the veteran. So there's even more wonderful skills that the inmates work with the dogs. They have to have a perfect record to be able to work with us. So they have to be something they call ticket free for a year before applying. And then really the inmates take such good care of these dogs because any kind of problem that happens or any kind of difficulty, that they would be replaced fairly quickly because it's a highly coveted job. So all of our handlers at one prison, they've been working, a majority of them, for about 4 or 5 years. They've been training the dogs, and our liaison at both prisons that works there and oversees the program inside the walls they're fabulous, and they take on these responsibilities in addition to their own responsibilities working in the prison. So we know that they're kept up to very, very high expectations, and it's a wonderful part of our program because it's really a win-win. We talk to the family members of the inmates, especially the incarcerated veterans that are serving time up in Saginaw Correctional Facility in Freeland, Michigan. And, you know, we hear about some of the reasons and the bad choices. and the things that they did that put them into prison. And a lot of it has to do with undocumented or undiagnosed and untreated post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury from combat. So they really appreciate us being there, and that we're seeing that they're still here and they can still pay it forward to their brothers and sisters who served in the military. And it has a great deal of pride that they have something positive in common with each other, and they're not just criminals in a prison. They're working and they're skilled and they're doing something good. So it's a wonderful, wonderful program.
So your mission statement states that you're rescuing one to heal another.
Yes.
But in many ways, this is a three-pronged approach, because the inmates learn to take care of another living thing.
Yes.
And learn training skills that can serve them in a positive way when they're released, if they are eligible for release at some point. And they gain a sense of purpose. And they also get stress relief just by taking care of and petting an animal, which I know it's huge.
Yeah, that kind of, you know, they're not judging. They don't judge their human that's taking care of them. They just appreciate everything they get, which is what we all see in dogs, and that's why dogs work with humans.
Right. Do you ever find that your dogs in the system get separation anxiety when they have to leave the person that's been taking care of them within the walls?
In the prison, I think more so the inmate than the dog. The dog, we work with, it's a little bit different now because of COVID, but usually we would take our veterans participating with the program and we would introduce them to the dogs in the prison several times prior to pulling the dog out of the prison and pairing them. So they already know the individual, and it's a nice overlap of the systems. So we don't see a lot of anxiety that way, and they're still doing the same routine. So the handlers inside the prison write a very detailed documentation of what they do on a daily basis, the dog's characteristics and even their flaws, very, very detailed, so that they can continue that structure and that schedule with their new owner forever, and then start the training together. And originally the training, when we start with the veteran, they need more training than the dogs at first to be able to learn all of the commands. They usually come out of the prison with about 20 commands under their belt, and then we start doing the training that's very individualized to the needs of that veteran. And then we practice it for a long period of time to make sure that they really master those skills to be able to alleviate stress, or maybe interrupt an anxiety attack, or try to, provide them with assistance to be more independent, not only in their home, but in the community, and as a role that they're taking on as maybe a parent or a worker or something like that.
Wonderful. Well, I love the work that you do, Christine. Thank you so much for joining us and explaining those questions today.
You bet.
I've been around Blue Star service dogs for a long time now, so looking forward to helping you in the future.
Oh, thank you for letting me. It's an honor.
Laszlo, well, we have Laszlo on the line. Hi, Laszlo. Phil, can you unmute Laszlo?
Unmute.
There
Hello.
you go. Hello. Hi.
I hope I can stay on here. We're in the mountains of Colorado right now. Actually, I'm headed to pick up my new service dog.
Yes, thank you. We really appreciate you joining us today. Laszlo is going to talk to us about the benefits that a service dog has offered to him, like a new leash on life, as it were. And yes, that pun was intended. And the importance of building trust and a special dog bond with the beautiful dog that will be taking care of him very soon. So Laszlo, can you explain the benefits of having a service dog, and how Emperor, bless his soul, helped you, and how you will be able to help Raven adjust to her new environment?
They do surgeries.
Yeah, well, when I got him, it was been almost 8 years ago, and I was suffering a lot from my post-traumatic stress. I was in a traumatic injury, suffered traumatic brain injuries, and I was having a lot of social issues, seizure activity, where I was getting a lot of injuries from the falls. Well, when I got Emperor, and not only did he help me almost instantly with my stress, my anxiety, my inabilities to be in public, he started picking up on my seizure activity probably within 3-4 days. And go back, Emperor was a bomb dog, specifically trained for that. And then he was in both Iraq and Afghanistan. And when he was injured, he came back, and then he was repurposed for me as my service dog. And it allowed my life to open up a little bit more and more every day when I was, because the worst part of it, I was battling with depression, suicide. And when I got him, a lot of that stopped almost instantly, because now I had someone who was dependent upon myself, not me dependent as I was with how I am. I have to have 24-hour care. I can't drive. I can't do this. Now I had someone who was dependent upon me, and it gave me that whole new look of life that, hey, we got missions still.
Remember your pills, you remember his.
And yeah, because one of the things that he helped me with was my medications, that I had to remember to give him his food, to give him his medications at times. Well, then that helped me start remembering, because I would forget to eat. I wouldn't eat, and then I wouldn't take my meds, and I'd have coach to do that. He helped so much with me to be able to build those new cognitive skills that I was struggling with so hard. And prior to that, I had no issues with, and with my speaking, because of my brain injury, I had a very bad speech pattern. And when I got him, while that helped, was not that but he brought people towards us. If anybody had met Emperor, and I know there's some folks on here who have, you'd attest that he drew people in. There was something about him that was more special than anything I've ever been a part of. But people would come and start talking, so I had to start working harder and harder at being able to talk to people, use my speech patterns better. And today you can hear me. I speak a whole lot better than I did 5 years ago. You can understand me. The comfort. Every guy I've talked to hundreds of veterans now. Ones who needed service dogs, ones who had service dogs, and ones who were struggling with their service dog. And they asked me how I dealt with mine. And having Emperor switch so quickly from his environment of hospitals, and we could talk about that. His switchover was amazing. Again, those of you who've met him, folks never realized what he had gone through and what his job was prior to being my service dog. He was so kind, so gentle. We spoke at hundreds of elementary school kids to college and pro athlete teams. And he interacted so well. They would never have guessed that's how he was, They are a lifesaver.
I think you're breaking up a little bit. I think your mountains are in the way. Yeah, I think we're losing you, Laszlo.
Give us, I can tell you. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. If we're able to, can you tell us quickly about Emperor's Pride project that I learned about just this past weekend?
Yeah. One of the things I started is once it's not an ending thing, the cost of it. So one of the things I talked with other groups, and there's so many out there to help you get your dog. We're working to help with the cost, medical cost, food cost, just to overall what it is to have and pay for the cost of your service dog, to make sure that you're keeping them up to date, you're keeping them healthy. And we're working with veterinarian groups that are helping, and it's growing and growing. I mean, I had to take a step back for a while because of my own injuries, but now we're working forward with that now. And our goal is to help raise the awareness of not only how they help us, but the laws. Unfortunately, on Emperor's last day, we were discriminated. He was kept out of the hospital. They would not let us in with my service dog, and they were saying that he's not coming in at this is at St. Joe's in Michigan, in Ann Arbor area. And we're going to deal with this because they didn't even know the laws. There's a security system there, and that's going to be a big push for me, is making sure that our local law enforcement and our service places understand what the laws are. We had to educate them. I educated myself over the last 6 years by learning what the rules are, the laws are, and incorporating. I spoke at national brain injury conventions on service animals and the laws. At Eastern Michigan, we're trying to train their, I'm going to be speaking with their OT programs again, because Emperor's Pride is about education and awareness, and they're putting OTs out there that are working with our brain injuries, with our rehabilitation, with veterans and cognitive issues. And they don't even know about service dogs. There's not a chapter in their books on it. My own doctors had no idea about how the service dog works and how they help and how much they help until they saw my progress with Emperor, and they were amazed by it. And now they're working with some of their own patients that they said, let's work forward and get them a service animal. So that, in a nutshell, is to raise the awareness, education of the society, and make a better place for us.
How they connect to it.
Pardon? Oh, and if anybody wants to see about what we're doing, I'm working on my C5 right now, my 501, but C5 Connect 5 from our DAV group in Livingston County DAV, they have a link page for me on their page, and that's the Connect 5 Veterans Association. That has a lot more of what we're doing, and we're going to start building that. So I know if I lose you, I just want to, so people can understand what we're doing. We have a page there for that.
I have actually included that in the resources page at the end of this presentation, Laszlo. So we got you covered on that one.
One of your doctors came
Yep.
to his funeral.
And we're putting out there too, is like, I've started last year, I started touring a little bit with different groups to talk about the service animals and what they do with Freedom's Not Free and Eyes of Freedom. So we're building on that too, because that's reaching the core groups of veterans that even a lot of veterans have no idea how much is. I fought it. I was like, no, there's nothing wrong with me. I don't need help. You know, the denial stage is so great. And then when I got Emperor, even in the beginning, I was a little off, but then as soon as I spent a day with him, it was amazing. And
They invited you to join the United States tour.
and we're going to, well, after COVID hits, we are going to start on a tour across the United States to start raising awareness for this physical aspect of service dogs and the laws, because it's changes so quickly around, and there's so many people who are abusing it that we have to raise awareness of that too. The abuse is crazy.
Well, we will have to see about getting you up to UM Flint when our occupational therapy doctorate students get going with their program, so that we can include that as part of their program and awareness. Yeah,
I wrote a whole curriculum part for Eastern Michigan's program that I gave them. It lasts about a week of training. It's, they couldn't fit it in, so but it's a week of lecturing and education for that program, and I wrote it pretty well. My education background is I used to write benchmarking standards for the state of Michigan, so it helped me to know that. So it's not like I'm just out there.
Yeah, we'll definitely put you in touch.
We'll put a picture out there. In about 2 hours, I'll be meeting my new service dog out at the training compound here in Colorado, and it's Emperor's niece that I'm getting. So a new beginning for me today.
Yeah, I'm seriously excited for you and looking forward to meeting her.
Yep. You guys have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for letting me speak.
You're very welcome. We're honored to have you here, and happy birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Birthday.
Yep. December 5.
All right. Thank you, Laszlo. So next we're going to discuss therapy dogs, and we have Mariana Ziegler-Hickey and Missy Walker who are both therapy dog trainers and handlers. And they're going to kind of tag team and talk to us about therapy dogs and the training and how they're different, or how they're trained differently from service dogs and what they do. Mariana, would you like to start?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us. I'm with Mid-Michigan Therapy Dogs. We have teams of about 150 teams of handlers and canines that serve the Mid-Michigan area. We serve schools, reading programs usually at schools, and we also serve with our partners at the Patriot Guard at the airport. We serve hospitals, nursing homes, other community events. We serve with the American Legion, Post 119 here in Linden, for military parades. And we often visit the University of Michigan Student Veterans Resource Center and their libraries for finals week too.
We're honored to have you there. We love seeing you guys.
Thank you.
We got a couple of pictures of Mariana and Doug, and I think you got Ellie Mae and Gabby there on the left, and actually on the right, I think.
Yes,
Right.
I have 2 dogs and a third one that I'm training right now.
Flutter. Can't wait to meet her.
Mhm.
I have a definite leaning towards golden retrievers and, well, any dog, especially Eco there.
We have a 12-week program here in Genesee County. And the first 6 weeks, we go through CGCs with them, the teams going training. And then there's another 6 weeks of facility visits. And there's also a veteran scholarship available.
What does that involve, Mariana? What's needed for that? Is it for education or is it for training a
For the-
therapy dog?
For the training of the therapy dog, if they're a veteran, it's free.
Excellent. Missy, are you with me? Do we still have Missy with us? Is Missy Walker? Or did she have to leave? I think we may have lost Missy. Mariana, can you briefly go over what's involved in training?
Yes. First of all, pretty much like what Mike was saying, you have to make sure that the temperament of the dog is appropriate. You can't have any aggression because the dog will be exposed to many children or people at the same time. Therapy dog serves many people, not just one, and you need to be very, very careful to train for any occasion. I recently had a dog in a classroom, cognitively impaired students, and there was a little boy who came extremely close and started trying to touch my canine's eye.
Ooh.
And luckily, I said, no, this is not appropriate. And well, her reaction, she had no reaction at all. So because of her intense training, she was fine with a stranger little boy coming too close to her. So that's really important during the training, is to make sure they are used to a variety of situations.
Missy, can you tell us what we as the general public should know before we attempt to approach a therapy dog, or for that matter, any dog that's wearing a vest of any kind, whether it's service dog, therapy dog, or anything like that?
I always have people, no matter what, even though they're therapy dogs, service dogs, you always ask the owner for permission. You know, 2 of my other dogs were conformation show dogs. They were used to being in the spotlight, but don't get in their face. my therapy dogs have been conditioned for all aspects. I've also hunted them, so they all, they're pretty conditioned to all types of situations. But my chocolate lab had an incident with a gentleman and a golden retriever, actually, and a military dog that she was almost attacked by. It was unfortunate, but so certain men with black shepherds, unfortunately, she backs up and barks until I tell her it's okay. She actually uses my black lab kind of as her therapy dog. And then she's fine, but she has to be assured that it's okay. So I always tell people, please, you're more than welcome to pet, but please ask, because they automatically think because it's a therapy dog that, they can do anything, but they are still animals. My dogs are conditioned to be around other dogs, but don't approach your dog with my dog without asking either, by the way.
Yeah, case in point. Is there anything you'd like to add, Missy, about handling and training therapy dogs?
Just like any service dog, a therapy dog is, not every dog can be a therapy dog. I have a lot of people calling me, texting me, hey, I want my dog to be a therapy dog just like yours. I have 5 labs, obviously, everyone knows, and 2 of them cannot be therapy dogs. Even though they're Labradors, the one, she just doesn't like children. She's been around them, and she don't like little people. My big conformation show dog is very protective of me, so he can't be a therapy dog. Some dogs are, possibly food aggressive. Some dogs, they just don't have the drive to be, they have too much of a high prey drive. So dogs either have it or they don't. I worked with my dogs since they were puppies and conditioned them. I actually had 3 little neighbor kids come over and pretend they worked with walkers with them. They drove in and out of their legs with RC cars. Just nothing inhumane by any means. My dogs are spoiled, but just condition them for all types of things that potentially could happen to a therapy dog while they're working. And my dogs were phenomenal. They didn't have any issues with, any of that. Smells. You also have to condition them for different types of smells. When you go into hospitals, there's all types of smells. And if a dog can't handle it, then, it's not the right thing for them. And I had to realize that. I would love to have 5 doing this kind of work, but again, they're not all, they either have it or they don't. And you don't really, everyone wants to say training a therapy dog. You don't train a therapy dog. You condition them for the atmosphere that they're going to be in. So a lot of people may not believe in that, but again, that's my own philosophy when I'm working with dogs to see if they are capable of therapy work, is conditioning them for all different types of situations.
Thank you, Missy. I don't know if you saw your picture, but I put your pictures up on the screen there, and your service salute team. We're going to move on to that with the next section about the Michigan War Dog Memorial. I hope you don't mind I use the logo, Phil. But Phil's going to talk to us about the Michigan War Dog Memorial and how it was discovered and the work that he and volunteers have done to restore and improve what was once a pet cemetery, or thought to be just a pet cemetery, but turned out to be a major rejuvenation of a very special plot of land on the corner of Milford Road and 11 Mile. And it's a project that will give many dedicated volunteers a renewed purpose in life. Missy, Mike, Laszlo, and Mariana all have special connections to the Military War Dog Memorial. So we'll keep you unmuted so that you can each discuss what it means to you once Phil has given his part about the War Dog Memorial itself. Phil, take it away.
Yeah, this all started back in 2011. And I was told about an abandoned pet cemetery, and in the middle of that cemetery was a gray monument that listed the war dog. Well, being owning German Shepherds most of my life, at that time I took my Shepherd, Cody, God bless her, she's no longer with us now, but we went to go check it out. And we got to the corner of 11 Mile and Milford Road, and it's all we saw was a wooded area. Didn't see anything. So we parked the car, we walked into the wooded area, and sure enough, right in the middle was this big, large gray monument. And as I looked around, I could see these little flat headstones sticking up, realizing that this was what they called the pet cemetery at the time, and had been totally abandoned. And I stood there, and I don't know if anybody else talks to their dog, but I said to Cody, I said, Cody, look at this. This is unbelievable. We got all these loving pets out here, and this place is a disaster. And I said that thing a lot of us have always said, and that's somebody should do something about this. Well, we left, and I got home, and about 2 weeks I just couldn't get it out of my mind. So one morning I'm sitting having my coffee, and I had just recently retired. And I said, Whiteloff, why don't you do something about it? So we started a program. And I got a hold of a lot of my military buddies and canine supporters, and I wanted to form a detail, mainly just to go clean it up. That was the main purpose, was just let's clean this up. So we set a date, and it was in August. And on that Saturday, I was totally elated when over 55 people showed up to help start cleaning it up. So we broke the cemetery down in grids and took one grid at a time. It took us 2 full years just to clean that up. And this was all from volunteer help. The more we did, the more the people showed up. There was times we'd have up to 80 people working on that cemetery to clean it up. And then we formed a committee, and then we formed a nonprofit organization, which is the Michigan War Dog Memorial, Inc. And we got a nonprofit rating from the IRS. And I said, let's start, doing some ceremonial burials for these military dogs. So I cleared it with the township. Since it was a previous cemetery, I didn't have to go through all the ramifications to document it. It just got the grandfather law. So we decided at that time, let's bury these military dogs and give them the honors they solely deserve. Not knowing exactly how to perform a military burial, I contacted the DOD. I figured, the military has a procedure for everything. And when I talked to them, I said, I'd like to know what your procedure is for conducting a burial for military dogs. Well, it was a long pause on the phone, and the gentleman said, well, sir, he says, we really don't have one. We leave it up to the unit. And I thought, well, yeah, okay, that makes sense to me. That makes sense. So I said, I guess we'll set our own procedure. So we had a committee meeting. We sat down, we says, how should we conduct this? So we started throwing ideas in the middle of the table and discussing them. And this is what we came up with, which we're using today. We have a retired detective from Oakland County who's a bagpiper, and he volunteers his time. So we have a bagpiper. We have an honor guard, usually the AMVETS or the American Legion, the VFW. They've all stepped up to give us honor guards. Behind that, we would have the handler with the urn, with the ashes of his pet, or of his partner. Behind that, we would have the canine salute team, and that consisted of mainly German Shepherds, but we have labs and we have one golden. And we usually have 10 to 12 always come to these ceremonies. And they would then escort displayed with all the things the dog had. Looks like I need to shut my video off. There we go. That the dog did. After that, we would have an invocation from Colonel Mindy Albright. She would say the prayers. And then we'd ask the handler to come up at the podium and read the bio off. Tell us about your dog, what your dog did, what honors that he did, and anything he would like to share with us. After that's done, we would present that.
Oh, I think we lost you, Phil.
Am I on?
Oh,
You are
yeah.
now. Yeah,
Okay.
we lost you briefly.
So anyways, we would then play taps. The bagpiper would play the Amazing Grace. Then the Canine Salute team would come into action. At that time, we did have one dog, Canine Kaiser, that was trained to howl on command. And it was called a Canine Salute to his fallen comrade. And he would howl for about 30 seconds, which was very touching.
Mm.
And then after that, we would do what you call missing dog formation. And the dogs would line up at the south end of the walking path. And as they walked down that path in single file, one dog would break out of the pack. All the time by the song of Linda Ronstadt's Goodbye, My Friend. That's what we established, and that's what we do today. It just gives great closure to the handler to know that his dog is totally respected, and on his final journey, he's given a total respect. But that's what we established, for doing a burial, ceremonial burial for a military dog. A service dog's a little different. You don't have the military atmosphere with it, but it's very, very similar. But in 2013 was our first dog that we buried, and that was MWD Buddy, and it started. It was in 2000, let me back up. At that time, we was only going to honor the military dogs and law enforcement dogs. We felt the dogs were in harm's way. That's the ones we would want to honor. But in 2016, our board had a meeting and a discussion came up about service dogs. That many of these service dogs spend their entire life serving us, making our lives better. And they should be also honored. So it was agreed by the board that we would open this up to the service dogs. And we picked 4 categories, and that's search and rescue. We go with the therapy dog, the service dog for the handicap and the blind, and the PTSD service dogs. So those are the ones now that are eligible to have a full ceremonial burial at the War Dog Memorial. But then after 2013, we still kept working to beautify that cemetery. And it was amazing at that point. It was just like fate. Corporations started stepping up and supporting us. The local community totally supported us. The township, thank God they left us alone, because a lot of times it's difficult dealing with the townships. But they were so elated at what we did with that abandoned pet cemetery. There was full support all the way. And we continued doing more things. And we think we'd all done what we were going to do. When somebody come up with an idea, we'd do a fundraiser and we would secure the funds and we'd continue moving on to beautify the area. I think 2 of the biggest events that we had out there, which a lot of them have been great with honoring these dogs, but when we decided that we wanted to honor the Vietnam dogs, a lot of people do not know the story about these dogs. There were 4,234 dogs deployed to Vietnam. And towards the end of the war, when the word got out, the troops are going to be pulled out. Believe me, the soldiers and the Marines were just tickled to death. They're getting out of this place. But the handlers, they ran to the kennels and they grabbed their battle buddy and said, "Buddy, we're going home. We're getting out of this godforsaken place." And unfortunately, 2 weeks later, an order came down from Washington, D.C., and it pretty much read in part to leave the dogs. They couldn't believe it. Unfortunately, the dogs at that time were considered equipment, and it was standard procedure that when you pull out of an area, if that equipment is not needed anywhere else, that you would leave it. Well, they fell into that category. Handlers tried to protest, but you're not going to protest too heavy in the military. And unfortunately, that rule stood. So some of the dogs were sent off to Korea, some of them were sent off to Japan, but the rest of them, the handlers had their choice. They could give their dog to the South Vietnamese Army, or they could euthanize them. Well, giving it to the South Vietnamese was a real problem because the dog was trained on the Vietnamese scent. He wouldn't know north from south. And you give it to a South Vietnamese soldier, that dog might just tear him right up. So about 98% of the dogs were, the handlers walked into the tent and walked out with a collar and leash in hand. It was extremely sad, very sad day. So we wanted to honor those dogs. Well, by the way, there's a law in place now that would never, ever happen again. That will never happen again. But we wanted to honor those dogs. So I said, I want to build a wall. I want a black granite wall, and I want to list every single one of these dogs that were deployed to Vietnam. But I needed their name and their tattoo number. Every military dog's tattooed in their left ear. So I needed those tattoo numbers. So I started calling all over the United States of different dog groups. And unfortunately, I would get a little bit here and a little bit there, and only ones that were out of Louisiana, or only ones out of Texas. I was getting a little frustrated and couldn't get much help from the DOD. Till one morning, I called a friend of mine that I had met. He was a Vietnam dog handler with a scout dog, and he wrote 3 books about walking in the jungle behind a dog. And I thought, he might know something. He was the founder of the National Working Dog Monument. It's located in Lackland Air Force Base. I know he had to deal with Congress to get that put in there. So I called him up and we had a long talk. And I told him, I said, this is what I'm trying to do. And he kind of hesitated a minute and he says, where is that going to be located? And I said, right here at the Michigan War Dog Memorial. He said, well, I had that same idea when I was working on it. I did have contacts at the DOD, and he says, I have that list. And I about fell off the chair. 2 years searching for it. Here it is, right there. And about 15 minutes later, that list showed up on my computer. So we said, we're going to build this wall. Well, I designed it on a yellow scratch pad and sent it down to a fabricator in Lebanon, Ohio. And he did a nice job of making me a nice drawing on the computer. But he said, we can do that. We can fit all 44,234 names on what you sent. And I said, that's great. But I said, no, the problem is, what is it going to cost? So he threw me a figure of $40,000. It's a little less than what I thought it was going to be. And I thought, well, we continue doing fundraiser, we might do fine. So we started fundraisers. In about 60 days, we'd raised about $8,000. Then I get a call one morning from a Vietnam veteran who was a tracker dog handler in Vietnam. His dog's name was Dawn. And he said, would Dawn be on that wall? Well, I looked at the master list and I said, yes, right there it is. This is Dawn. Here's the tattoo number. He said, yep, that's her. He said, I'd like to make a donation. Would $20,000 help you? And I'm about falling off the chair. I mean, $20,000, great. A week later, I get a call from the U.S. War Dog Association in New Jersey. He said, "I understand you're building a wall for the Vietnam dogs." I said, "Yes, sir, I am." He said, "How you doing on your fundraiser?" And I said, "We're doing great. We're only $12,000 shy." He says, "Not anymore. I'm going to send you a check for $12,000. We raised that $40,000 in 90 days. That's why people want to honor these dogs. They know what they've done, and they're just so appreciative that we're doing what we're doing for them. And then that took place. So that wall was built and erected in 2017. The day we had the dedication, over 40 Vietnam dog handlers came from everywhere in the United States to be here. And as I stood up on the podium, and towards the end of the ceremony, I says, "All right, you dog handlers, go find your dog," because we'd had it covered up with a parachute. They kind of scurried over there, and you could see them run their finger down the wall to find their dog. It's like after 50 years, their dog was recognized. It was extremely emotional for them that day. And most of them stayed by that wall for another 2 hours after the ceremony was over. They wanted to be close to their dog again. You could tell in their mind, their mind was running, that they were still walking behind their battle buddy. It was quite a day, quite a day.
The photos of the wall, I posted one up there. The photos do not do it justice. Really have to see it up close and personal. And it is a beautiful, beautiful monument to our working dogs from Vietnam. And if I say any more, I'm going to tear up because it's a very special place, very special. And we so sincerely appreciate everything that you've done, Phil, to bring this memorial site to reality. We've got a parking lot now, which is really cool.
Yeah.
If you get there early enough, you don't have to park in the road. But get there early for any of the ceremonies. They start at noon and it fills up. So when the ground thaws again in spring, it's usually April that you start, isn't it, Phil?
Yeah, that's correct. We kind of stop at the end of October. This year we went into 1 week for CWD Emperor Lazarus dog. But right now there'll be no more ceremonies until about April of 2021. Because again, I mean, just like with the law enforcement guys come to me, a lot of them want to keep the ashes, but we did want to build a monument for the Oakland County group, which Mike belongs to.
Yes.
And we do have it's a running document. We list the dog's name. We've got about 20 dogs on there now, and that will continue updating it as unfortunately when the dogs pass away. So, but by giving these guys that closure, it's just something that I really feel strong about. It's a day that they can say that their dog was, he lived his life, he did his job. He's gone, but he got a great send off, great burial. And by the way, we do all this at no cost for the handler. We do not charge them anything. It's our way of paying for it, our way of showing our respect for what these canines have done. We get supported just through donations, but it's something that is really dear to my heart. And I feel very privileged to be able to do this for these handlers to honor their dogs. So.
Thank you, Phil. Missy, Mike, and Mariana each have connections to the Military War Dog Memorial. Would any of you like to say a couple of words about your connections?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
I would love to say that I adopted a dog from a neighbor who was actually a Vietnam veteran, and he died, and we were able to take his dog in and she served at the VA hospital, the Veterans Hospital in Ann Arbor and in Saginaw. And it was an easy transition because we were neighbors. And then she served another 3 years when I handled her with my husband. And she was buried at the Michigan War Dog Memorial. It was quite an honor for us. and for her and for her former owner who served in the Air Force. It was a lovely ceremony, and as Helen has attested. You need to see this place, a very, very honorable place that really grips your heart to know what those dogs have done and what they've given to our service personnel, their lives in some cases. It's a gripping place, very, very heartfelt.
Thank you, Mariana. Missy, would you like to say a word?
Yeah, I've been on the team going on actually 3 years this next year. I tried out. She was one of the, we have 2 black labs on the team, and every service is different. It never gets easier, but it's so humbling being a part of our, we call it our family team. Just seeing the appreciation that people have for what we do. I know many of our dogs on the team act like goofballs right before, and if they're anything like my lab, she acts goofy, and then she hears those taps and immediately goes into, okay, we got to do this mode. So I know Dolly enjoys it. I know many dogs on our team do, and I look forward to many more years of doing it, and just really helping people out for that final farewell to their dogs that have done so much for us.
Mike, would you like to say a few words? In fact, that's actually where I met you initially, when you had Blitz, who kept pushing his nose under my hand to be petted. I hope Eco does the same.
Well, Eco's a clown. He's a little bit different than Blitz was. Blitz was a lot more serious, but yeah, they're loving dogs. They just know, right? War Dog Memorial's real special to me. Starting out when it first started, got connected out there, and just because of the military war dog connection, and then further on with the police dog connection there. But I've met so many special people through there. It's definitely changed my life, and it's a place of solace going out there for my wife and and I have 2 dogs out there. A piece of them are there now, so it's special.
Well, looks like we are getting close to being out of time. We've got 4 minutes. I want to say a very, very heartfelt thank you to all of our panelists today. I'm going to start my video. I do have a resource slide I'm going to post up here. This will be available to you after the session, and certainly feel free to email me if you would like a copy of the presentation as well. Just the PowerPoint, and we hope you found it informative, and we welcome you to the Michigan War Dog Memorial next spring when ceremonies resume, as Phil said, and we greatly appreciate your questions. I hope we got to all of them, either on chat or live. And we, again, to our panelists, thank you for your dedication to your mission and the services that you provide for so many of our veterans and their furry heroes. We can't say enough about how grateful we are for what you do. So thank you. I had a contact slide. You can email me at hjbud@umich.edu if you would like a copy of the PowerPoint at any time, or more information about any of the resources that I posted up there. And if you want me to go back to that slide, I certainly can. So you can screenshot or whatever you'd like to do with it. Those links are live, and like I said, I'll be happy to send them out to you. Do you have any questions that we can address quickly? Phil, do we have time? Phil Larson?
We still have 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes for questions.
We'll also be able to, the video will be posted on our veterans website once I get done processing it. And then we can also put this slide deck on there too if you want.
Great. Oh, hey, John. John's back with Alex. Real quick, John, did you would you like to say anything about Alex and Hi, Alex. I can see him. Would you like to say a quick word about, because you just recently had Alex trained as a service dog just in the last several months.
Well, it was definitely interesting trying to get the public access training done when everything was closed down. So it took us a lot longer to get that part of the training done. But it's been said before, but he made it so much easier to be out in public again. He watches my back. He doesn't growl. He doesn't, he's not aggressive. But if somebody starts moving, he's hitting my leg, so I know that somebody's coming up from behind. Just being able to watch for me, so I don't have to. It's a whole different world, and it is awesome to be out in public again and not feel like I can't go out. And when we eventually start working back at the university, we'll be in the Veterans Center every day. He goes everywhere with me now. So anyways.
He has a couple of toys waiting for him, John.
Okay, fair enough.
There's still, and his blue dog is, I don't know what sort of condition it's in, but it's still in your office. So I think he's going to need a wash before you return him to his owner. Are we still on?
I think so.
Oh, I think you muted, John.
I can still hear.
Unmute.
Oh,
Okay, there you go. Sorry about that.
So,
yeah.
Whatever you just said, can you repeat it?
It might be a while before we're back. They're still not predicting that we're going to be back probably before the end of the year, but we'll be back. And I'm very interested in the Blue Star just to see how that works. But he's a pup. He's only about 15 months old, so he's got a good 10 years of working still to go.
I can't wait to see him again.
All right.
All right. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? I think we're close to Phil Larson. How are we doing?
Oh, you're a little over time. So it's
okay.
Pretty, yeah.
Wow.
Good to go. But thank you so much for everybody being here and a part of this, our Veterans Week, and joining us remotely, and putting up with the Zoom problems that, just kind of causes. And please join us for other panels if you're so inclined. We have a lot more going on this week. Again, this will be available on our website hopefully by tomorrow. I got to do some processing with it through today, and it takes a few hours to get it through and get it up on YouTube.
Thank you again for putting up with my accent. Yes, I am British. You don't have to adjust your sound. And like I said, I left those resources up for you, and they'll be available once everything goes on the website here and from me. So thank you, Phil, for moderating for me, and everyone go blue. Even if you're not blue, go blue.
I'm with you.